right, so welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Happy Hour podcast. So this one's going to be a little tense, as you can see. So it's this one's titled Working with Your Spouses. So today we have Amy and Howard Kim and my wife, Neena Vlamis, the owner of Dean. But let me do an intro here. I have to put my glass on to read this. Sorry for the delay, but we had a marketing issue. I had to rip off, my wife insisted on ripping off the label on the water bottle, so go figure. All right, so today we're thrilled to have Howard and Amy, a powerhouse in the real estate market, join us. With years of experience and a deep understanding of everything, of an ever-evolving landscape, Amy has built a reputation for excellence and innovation. With $700 million in career sales, their unique approach to real estate, combined with their commitment to client satisfaction, has made them a sought-after expert in the field. They are recognized as top 1% in the industry. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you
so
for having
exciting.
So again, we go way back with Amy and Howard, and we talked about, we should have this working with their spouses. For the record, I think, we've been doing this over 20 years, and we've never, ever done anything like this together. So
it's mortifying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is breaking ground for us to see how this goes. I'm sure there'll be plenty of edits, so we'll be good to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Look how nervous she is. It's almost like our first date, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen Neena blush like this in a really long time.
Look at her body language. We've been married 22 years, and look at her body language.
It's like your first date. She's blushing a lot.
All right, so working with your spouse, we want to go back to that. So you guys run the Kim Global at Compass Real Estate, and was it now almost 2 years? I'm over here. It's almost 2 years ago. Almost 2 years ago, we started working together here at A&N. So I just wanted to delve into all things family, how kids, all that, and how that works type of thing. We'll go from there.
Sure, yeah. So we've been working together ever since we had gotten married. I was by myself prior to us getting married, and I was so busy, and I said, I think it would be kind of cool if we just worked together, and Howard agreed.
But Howard didn't do real estate then?
No.
I was in corporate finance before.
You traveled a lot.
Yeah, and I worked in Korea for Arthur Andersen and all that stuff, but then after the whole Enron debacle, I got laid off when I came back to the States, and then business started to grow. She was going to hire some people. I said, hold on a second, let's think about this, and then we got into the venture together, but it wasn't always easy.
Oh, right. Definitely not easy at first.
Yeah.
Not, especially also being newly married too.
Right.
It was very hard.
But and she wanted to have kids like right away.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, we just got married, we just started working together, and you want to have 3 kids by the age of whatever. And I said, let's slow down, but she doesn't listen to me.
Yeah, so but it all worked out.
Let me make a note. She doesn't listen to you. We're going to get back to she doesn't listen to you.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Trust
played
me,
out
she doesn't
over the
listen to me.
years. So.
But it all always works out. Right. And usually I'm right anyways. Usually. I didn't say always. So
we can get back to that.
That's another we can get back to. All right, so I guess we should delve into how we met and how we got involved in the industry, right? Are you comfortable talking?
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, Neena. People want to hear you talk, so go ahead.
So Dean started asking me out. It was probably 6 months. I was a bank rep at Marshall & Isley, and you worked at Pearl Mortgage on Ashland in the pink building, but I didn't know you were joking about asking me out. So on my 25th birthday, I was like, okay, I'll go out with you, and I'm available from like 5:30 to 7:30. You were like, I have plans. And I was like,
So
whoa.
I asked her out. I was joking because she was a young little girl walking in the office. I was new to the industry, just a few months, and I just kept teasing her. And I would ask her out every time, and she'd say no, and I didn't care. And then when she finally said yes, I go, I can't go. I have plans.
It was so embarrassing.
She goes, why did you ask me out? It's my birthday. So that's the greatest love story ever, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And then after 2
so
weeks, I'm like,
cute.
so I'm going to marry you. And then he hung up.
Yeah.
Like, he'll call back. Call back. He did. He eventually called back.
Right, so.
you guys got married pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, I told him we were getting married, and that was it.
Oh, wow.
You know the difference? So immediately what I've noticed is that you tell him things.
I actually
She
told
doesn't
him.
tell him.
No,
Stop.
I told him that we were going to get married too.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also entered a wedding sweepstakes without telling me.
I did that.
I forgot about that. You guys were on the news for your
Yeah.
whole
We
wedding.
won a wedding, but you should tell.
2 weddings.
We won a wedding and then had to have a second wedding because the first one was too small. But we won.
Yes.
But point is, she didn't tell me about this until we were in the semifinals.
Yes.
And she goes, oh, by the way, I entered a wedding. That's a big omission.
Yes.
And she goes, I wasn't big on social media at the time, and
And he's a much more private person than I am.
yeah. So the next thing I know, we're everywhere, and every news channel is contacting us. I go, what's going on? She goes, oh, I forgot to tell you that I entered our love story. Shout out to Greatest Expectations. You guys did a great
I
job.
would tell Nina she'd be at that wedding by herself. I
But
wouldn't
she
go.
did that. And so she's really good at like omitting important things that she thinks are beneficial to us, but I
Like
should have
that
known
should
at the
be
time.
like a conversation. The couple should be making the decision. Like we did that.
Together?
We did that for property too. I said that I'm going to go sign off on a contract.
But you'd have probably already done the data, so it was best for the family, right?
Oh yeah, but
Right.
in
Well,
hindsight,
she will give me a hard time for buying a new driver for my golf set,
yes.
right? And then she goes, we have to go somewhere. I'm like, where are we going? And she goes, we have to go to a closing. I'm like, why? And she goes, because we're buying a new property.
No.
I said, what?
I didn't wait till the closing, but I waited until the executed contract
Amy,
to
God's,
say.
God's watching. God's watching.
I didn't wait till the closing. I
Don't
waited
lie.
till the executed contract and we were in attorney review. I was like, oh, yeah.
So she gives me a lot of junk for buying something for her kids or for myself that might be a golf
Is it
cover.
displaced
But then she-
anger?
but
Is
then
that
she-
displaced anger?
No,
What is
she,
that? What
she
is
has
that
a
called?
shopping problem by buying properties.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
well, I stopped that problem, so.
until
When
yesterday.
when we first met, Nina was very frugal because I was starting out and I was starting all over again in the industry. And so I was really broke at the time, right? So the only one thing, luxury I afforded myself was some Donna Karan aftershave lotion type of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
she goes,
nice.
this is way too expensive. So she came home with the Walgreens brand of aftershave. So what did it turn me, red or green
It
or
was
something?
horrible.
Yeah.
So
It
bad.
was painful too.
Walgreens brand
sorry
aftershave. I
about
said, this
that.
won't last. But that was Nina's frugality that I had to
And
get
now
used
we've
to.
only bought him very expensive lotion for his
Fair
face,
enough.
and look how
Yeah.
Yeah,
young
looks
you look.
good.
Go figure
Look very
type of
young.
thing, so.
Yeah.
And Nina's, you're always been, she ties business with almost everything, right? So one of our early dates, if I remember, beautiful night out. She goes, you know what? I have to go to the post office though. Can we stop
you're
off the
so
post
mad
on
at me.
Friday night?
So mad.
So we go, nice dinner. Everything was really nice before we even married, and then we spend about an hour and a half at the waiting
didn't
in line
know.
at the
I had to
post
mail a
office on
bunch of
Friday.
things. I felt so bad
work,
about that
work, all
too.
that stuff. That's Nina doesn't separate things like that sometimes. So
Yeah, an hour and a half is a long time to be at the
It was
post
probably
office.
like 30 minutes.
So
No, in fairness, Amy was the same way.
Yeah, I
but
was the same way.
And I hated it. But then once we started working together and I got in the industry with her, then I started understanding the why behind it all. But without being in the industry,
So
I
you-
thought she was the rudest person in the world.
Right.
Wow.
And I
Because
think,
like she's
yeah.
always taking calls, she's always doing this and that. And I'm like we
Right.
have no
It's
conversation.
24/7 and
Right.
it doesn't stop. I
But
think-
now,
yeah.
so I'm the best thing that happened to her.
Right.
Because the reality is that
It
most
is
guys that
true.
she would have dated, or
Most
that she
people
did
don't say
date,
it that way, though.
they got so tired of it
Yeah.
because,
But it's part
for
of the
me, I
industry.
just delved in, and then now, I'm the best thing that ever happened to her.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that just shows like where do boundaries come into play in any relationship. So when are we pushing somebody's limits and when is it hurting the other person? Because it's all jokes and it's a great time, but if it's hurting somebody, you need to stop and you need to understand that, hey, this is where you're tipping over and you're tipping that line
Absolutely.
because that you don't want to do that to
And
somebody. I don't
understanding
ever
the
want to
why
hurt
behind
somebody.
it, so
yeah.
that you know that you're not intentionally doing something
But
to
you-
be
like-
disrespectful or be dismissive,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's work, and once you understand that line of work and you're in it together, then it makes more sense.
But this industry is 24/7. That's, you have to take that call. That's part of it. So I
Yeah,
think that made it
absolutely.
easy for us, always being on the phone, as we didn't work
But the nice
together.
thing is that there's an understanding of it. Like,
Right.
if you have to take a phone call,
Yeah.
your spouse understands it, and vice versa. If I need to do something, he understands, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, so, but yeah, I'm kind of, I have no idea how, and I'm glad for our colleagues that have happier marriages, but that other spouse has to be very understanding because their work is not like that. So they don't know that it's
Right.
how committed we all are in our work.
Right, I agree. One of the things that I've recently learned, I think, after being married, was it 22 years? 20? It's
22.
we're on our 23rd year of marriage, is understanding, right? Dean always says, I don't want an apology from you, I want understanding from you.
Yeah.
And where does that understanding come from? He's 11 years, 12 years. He's older than I am, and he's got a little bit more experience in all the things. I opened A&N at 27, and this is my life. This is all I know. I haven't really learned from an outside company, right? So you're learning from books, from reading, from past experiences. But by him saying, I want understanding in why I did this or how I changed that. What that's done for me lately, it's really changed my perspective on where is that other person coming from and why are they coming from there and how can I be more adaptable to change and grow into that relationship of whoever I'm talking to understand.
It's kind of the same thing with the why. If you understand the why of it, it's because, so you understand so you can actually, learn from it type of thing. But I've learned from nothing but mistakes my whole life. And as long as you learn from them, I guess that helps type of thing.
Just like my dad always said, everyone makes mistakes, but try not to make the same mistake twice, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's never more true than in your relationships,
Right.
but especially when you work with your spouse, you parent with your spouse, she is your spouse, so you're still, you're married.
Right.
So
We try to be understanding.
we both have 3 kids. So
Yeah.
the challenge with kids, as we just mentioned, though, in this industry, it's 24/7. So I
Yes.
never have to explain, I tell clients here, never bother me every time you call. My wife and I do the same thing for a living, they understand. But when you're driving around when the kids were younger, at least when they were younger, sports, school, that got a little challenging because we've been doing this since 2000. And cell phones weren't that big of a deal to begin with. Working remotely wasn't a big deal.
We didn't
So-
have email when we started.
Email, you didn't have
Right.
email, and in order to get a phone call, the most important phone call was in the office, and your computer was in the office. So I just remember
Right.
running around, and you're thinking in the back of your head that the business is piling up until I get into work tomorrow. But having children just changed everything. That took it to a different level, I would think, and that's what you just mentioned, right?
Well, it's kind of funny or coincidence. I was thinking about that the other day, but I think because Howard's dad owned his own medical practice, and then my dad always had a side hustle of owning real estate while both my parents had like full-time jobs. I guess that like both of our parents were always working. So I don't think that so now our kids see us always work. Well, when we're with them, we're with them, but when we're not with them or we're at home and one of us has to take a phone call or if one of us has to respond to an email or we're working while they're home, I don't feel bad. I think it's just the way of how our life is. And to be honest with you, whether you're in a sales position or not, if you're successful, you can't just work 40 hours a week. You're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week anyways.
And weekends and nights and
Yeah.
hours.
So the expectation, you have to have good work-life balance, but I hope our kids have our work ethic. That's what we would
Yeah,
want.
and I think in the future, like in 10 years from now, I don't think there's going to be 9-to-5 jobs anymore.
Exactly.
I think there's so much that's changing in the world that you're going to see, okay, you can come and go. I think being a woman-owned business, before COVID hit, I was really prepared for COVID. Unintentionally, because I wanted all the women and dads that worked here to be able to go and pick their children up at 3 or 3:30 to drive them to gymnastics. Jump on your computer when you get back.
Yes.
I don't care how many hours you work. I care how good your work is, and I care that you got it done, and I care that you're happy and making some money.
Yes.
That's all that mattered to me. So I think in the future that should be the wave, and hopefully the whole world goes to that direction.
Instead
because
of number
that's
of hours,
important.
the quality of the work.
Quality, right.
The
that-
quality
Yeah.
of your work, right?
Or the time frame, as long as the work is getting done. I totally agree with
You
that.
mentioned that we're always working, and our parents were always working. The uniqueness of all of us here, we're children of immigrants. So I wonder if that plays into it, because I grew up,
didn't think of
like
that.
you just worked. I mean,
You're
I
so
agree
smart.
100%. Yeah. Well, he's
no,
brilliant.
no, but I mean, if the TV, we're showing, back in the 70s, if the TV broke, my dad's electrical engineer, he would never call anyone to fix it. So I would spend my Saturdays holding a flashlight where he'd spend hours to fix
So
the
our
TV.
children don't have that work ethic,
Not
which I'm
remotely.
realizing right now.
No, but that's
which
what I
could
was-
be a problem for us.
But someone told me a long
I
time ago.
disagree with that.
you
I
wa-
think your kids are wonderful.
No, but
I
right.
think they're wonderful. I'm
Right.
not saying that.
But tell me if this is true,
But I
though.
think that they have great work ethic too.
But think of your kid, your parents and the kids. Think someone told me you won't work as hard as your parents, and your children won't work as hard as you. It just comes from hard work creates, hard times create good people, good times create soft people. So it's just,
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the pattern, because
I think the difference between our kids is that they're probably going to work way smarter than us.
I hope so, yeah. I would hope
More
that's the case.
efficiently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more efficient, right.
efficiently.
But that's
With
the way the world is
technology,
going today.
yes.
With
yeah.
AI and technology and
Right.
The efficiency of stuff. And alluding to what you said, going back to what you said about all of us being,
Children of immigrants, yeah.
right? We talk about this a lot, actually.
Right.
Just on the side, like whatnot, about and it just casually comes up like organically,
Right.
like about this, that, or whatever, and we always refer back to our parents.
Yeah.
And I think I look at two ways. The biggest influences are our lives, but at the same time, like Amy and I often talk about how generational changes, right?
Right.
And because of that, like you take the good with the good, but then stuff that like we've learned how to do things to them, but also how not to do things.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've learned what not to do as well that wouldn't translate to working now, or
Yeah, that's a really good point.
but it's so easy to focus on the things that we can benefit from learning from them and all the great things, but there's also stuff like decisions they've made or how they've gone about things that don't work.
Right.
So like how not to do this or how not to do that. We're also mindful of that as well because we don't like to be
I think that's
blindly
important.
just jumping into things, right?
Right.
I think
So-
the work ethic comes from
But
that,
also
right?
respecting
Yeah.
everything that they've done for us, but being aware of the things that didn't work as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
But I would imagine it's a sense of survival. I couldn't imagine myself, as I mentioned, the harder generation, getting up and going to a country where I don't speak the language.
Right.
I mean, all our parents did that.
I know. I
Yeah.
think about that too.
Right,
Like that's
so,
crazy that
yeah.
going to I mean, my parents had to go because of the war, but
But that's a big deal.
It's a
really big
Let's-
deal.
Can we talk about each
So
person?
how did each
yeah.
person's parents
Yeah, let's
get
start
here?
with you. We'll tell your story then. So
Sure. So my parents were high school sweethearts in Vietnam, and during the Vietnam War, when the downfall of the war, my dad was able to he was able to get to the United States. My mom, though, and my 3 other siblings were stuck. They were stuck in the Philippines, and so they were separated for 7 years. So my dad, the government helped him get placed in Wisconsin. Apparently, we're the only Vietnamese family in Wisconsin.
Right.
Everybody else went to California and Texas, but we went to Wisconsin. But he started a life there. We have an amazing foster family that helped him get a job, taught him English, getting set up in a new country. And in those 7 years, my dad was able to find my mom, who was displaced in the Philippines, and bring her over here. But literally, they came with like the clothes off their back on a boat. Literally, when you hear the word "fresh off the boat," that is what happened. They were on a boat. My brother only had like one T-shirt, and then he got them from New York to Wisconsin, and then my twin sister and I were the oopsie babies when they reunited. So
7 years later.
7 years
That's a nice-
later.
And
so
you
there's
guys
a
all
big
speak
age
different
gap.
languages.
Yeah, so my parents know Mandarin, Cantonese, a dialect of Chinese called Tujiao, and Vietnamese. So Trong, my brother, who's also on our team, he speaks Chinese and Vietnamese. My older siblings speak Chinese and Vietnamese, but I think because my parents, Cindy and I, my twin sister and I were the only ones born in the United States, it was very important to them for us to speak English very well. So they really wanted to focus on that. So I understand, but it's very hard for me to speak it.
And to communicate with your mom.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I can have
that's-
very basic language,
Right.
but there cannot really be, and that's probably the saddest part of it all, is that I
course.
can't really have like deep conversations with
your
my
mom.
parents.
Right.
It's very like, how are you
but their
doing?
English is good.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's average.
It's
And as a
average.
child, that I can't imagine not being able to have these really hard conversations with my children. And going back to you,
Yes.
you always say, I'm a blessing in our marriage. Well, I am in your marriage, but I'm important because I'm very open with the children, right? Because your parents were not,
Yeah.
right?
well, the Greek thing is to work hard and provide, and it's very stern, education, education, all that. And so I had 2 sisters, so Nina's very open. I tell my boys, I had to do all that on my own. It's very important.
Sure.
You're so open. All right,
And
so
that's
an
relating
ama-
to Amy, though. Like
that's an amazing
that's
story,
an
though,
amazing
Amy.
story because
Yeah.
your mom is a big part of your life.
But I mean, that story alone, Vietnam War, but you're Chinese people living in Vietnam, though,
Oh
right?
yeah, so I'm Chinese Vietnamese. So, I don't know, 3 generations ago, there's several Chinese people, several families from a certain village that had moved to Vietnam to create their own life in Vietnam. So yeah, my twin sister actually did one of those like ancestry things.
Right.
And I felt like I didn't need to do that
You
because
don't,
we're
just went,
identical.
right.
So we found out that we're like 99% Chinese,
Oh.
and then like 0.7% Vietnamese,
Okay.
and then 0.3% Filipino. So
There we go.
yes.
All right, so Howard, you get now you're Korean. You're Korean.
Yeah,
story.
our story's a little bit different. My parents immigrated here in the early 70s.
Okay.
My father was a doctor, did medical school in Korea. He had to do it again when he came here, so they moved to New York. That's when my older brother and I were born, and then subsequently moved out here because my mom's side of the family had immigrated here.
Okay.
So my dad wanted my mom to be close to her family, and then my younger brother was born. It's interesting because my dad's one of his older brothers was captured during the Korean War. So he got captured by the North, and my dad,
Gone.
they all assumed that he didn't make it. Years and years later, he ended up finding him through our church and through some politicians that he knew. My dad went there on a missions trip.
In the
and-
south or north?
in North. So
Oh,
he
he's in
actually
North.
went to North Korea a couple times on church missions trips, found the family, he got escorted to the family. And unfortunately, his older brother had passed away maybe 6 months before that. He had two sons that were serving in the military. But my dad knew it was them because he saw pictures of his brother at the house, and
Right.
it all made sense, and she knew who my dad was and things like that. It was a little bit different. My parents were both well educated.
Right.
It was still a big struggle when they came here because he had to take all his boards again in English, and he didn't know a lick of English, and it's very hard taking standardized board exams and stuff. He really grinded it through. Fun fact, I was named after his mentor,
That's nice.
Dr. Howard Rusk, who's the father of rehab medicine and
Okay.
the Rusk Institute of
My
Medicine in
fun
New York.
fact is my name is Amy because they looked at a kid's like a name book and they just went alphabetical order. They didn't like anything in B, so that's why Cindy's
Oh,
a C.
nothing B, C.
Yeah, so
So the American names, I should say, to assimilate, right?
Yeah.
That it was important for them to assimilate. Yeah.
So then we're here ever since.
Wow.
It was never, but people think that it was easy because my dad was a doctor, but no,
No.
it was actually quite the opposite. They had to grind a lot harder to be successful in a field that was quite difficult back then.
Right.
He worked really hard, ended up opening his own practices, and was quite successful.
And you mentioned your parents, like they're almost similar to like the Greek, very education term. I mean, you might share. Yeah, I remember. I'm gonna share a story. You got in trouble once for cheating on a test or something like
Yeah,
that.
so very
So the
strict.
reason I'm bringing that up is because how that culture deals with that.
So what happened is that,
How many brothers do you have?
I have an older brother, a younger brother. We're all 2 years apart.
Right.
I was the more free-spirited one.
Right.
Older brother, I'd say we're all smart. I think my younger brother is a genius. I think my older brother is actually
Yeah, he's very
technically
smart.
smarter than him if you
Right.
just went based on
Right.
IQ tests and whatnot. And I was quite smart, but nothing compared to those two, quite honestly. I also wasn't the hardest worker in high school. So when I was told to take all these honors classes, so I'm the only one in my family who really didn't go into the medical field at
Right,
one point or
okay.
another. So I cheated on an honors biology test. I got caught red-handed. My grandma had to come and save me because my dad
Yeah.
called and said, "Stay up for me, you're in big trouble, go downstairs away from me." My grandma locked me in my room, locked the door,
Wow.
and said that he's sleeping, and my dad's like at 6 p.m. And she's like, but there's a level of respect with your elders in Korean culture that's very strong, and so he wasn't gonna question my grandmother, and my grandma sat outside my door for like over a day.
Just to make sure.
Waiting.
I love
Yeah.
that story because I can relate to it coming from the
Right.
older cultures. Like from my dad, you disrespected not yourself but the family,
Yeah.
all that. I
Yeah.
always had that weight of the family.
Yeah.
So,
So let's tell your golf story about you at mini golf.
No, we
and
can tell
your
that later. We're
sisters,
gonna
and
talk
then
about you.
You ran away and hid under the viaduct. Go ahead.
This is we grew up in Kansas City, and I
a
have two
good
sisters
story.
who lived with me at the time because I have a third sister, but she wasn't living with us. But my dad was getting into golf. I may have been 7 or 8 years old, so he would go, he'd drive, hit golf balls. My mom would watch him, and we'd go play mini golf. And I was furious because I was a very competitive child.
Dean is Mr. Justice, right?
And Michael picks that up from us,
I
right?
know, it has to be right
And
and
if something's wrong,
There's no
I
gray.
can't
He
comprehend
can't
that.
comprehend, he can't function beyond that.
So they cheated. They took my ball at the very last hole. And the very last hole in mini golf swallows the ball. So I thought, oh, this is easy. I'm going to go tell my dad they cheated. You guys are in so much trouble. So I march out there thinking, the injustice was so grave that anyone could see it. I tell my dad the story. He looks at me and goes, get out of here. I could not believe they didn't care, so I walked right, and the mini golf is maybe 10, 15 minutes from our house. It was on a highway. I walked straight out of the mini golf, determined this injustice was so grave that I'm leaving the home. So I walked home, walked down the highway, and you know how there were little ditches just laying in the ditch looking at the night sky. This is the 70s where there's no phones, there's no nothing. About a half an hour later, I get tired. Maybe I should start walking. As I start walking, my dad's car pulls up. So it must have been fate because I was lost. Lost. Chases me, I start running, chases me, throws me in the backseat. My sisters are bawling. The punishment was fierce, to say the least. Something I got hit.
Yeah.
The branch came off the tree.
My dad, we're coming in, the neighbors.
Your dad told me that story.
The neighbors are, hey, Mike, how you doing? He's got the cutters cutting a branch. Hey, Bob, how's everything? Good.
Yeah.
And Bob's up there. Got whooped.
This is a good
Yeah,
size.
yeah.
Good size. But it doesn't scar
Sounds
me
like a
whatsoever.
common thing.
Ask me if I ever ran away again.
Right.
So it doesn't
Yeah.
scar me whatsoever. We'll talk about my family next, but
Yeah. No,
Neena's.
go to your family
No,
first.
your family. So Neena's father's from India, so let's
Yeah.
go to town.
So my dad is from New Delhi, India. My mom is from Minnesota. They met, my dad was, I don't know, came here for college from India, and then my mom came from Minnesota to Lincoln Park. So they both met at like,
So that's
I
why
think
she
it was
looks Greek.
440.
That's why she looks Greek. And not Indian, so,
I think it was
yeah.
like 440 West Webster, right across from Oz Park. And
Oh, that's
my dad
nice.
was the maintenance man, and my mom worked at Grant Hospital where my brother and I were born, which is now condominiums. It's kind of neat that they migrated together and started their own family, you know.
But that's the same concept, immigrant hard work. So what Neena's, like, I'll tell about my family, but as you mentioned, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, her father went through the same thing. There's a concept from Pakistan and India called partition. When they were finally, after the British left after World War II, they were finally separating the countries, and her father was born on the Pakistani side, which means all the families had to get up and just walk. They had to walk to their New
He grew
Delhi.
up in, I thought it was a tent, but it was actually a train car for the first 5 years of his life. So he was a refugee.
Yeah, because they had to walk. So the Muslims had to emigrate. The Muslims in India went to what is now Pakistan. The Hindus had to go towards, it's in the movie Gandhi. They show the partition as people were walking. So her dad had to go through that. So the reason I bring that up is war. It's the same thing. My parents are from Greece, and they lived during World War II. They were young during World War II. My dad's from the island of Crete, and firsthand, the first airborne invasion in the history of the world was when the Germans invaded Crete airborne, right in his backyard. So he wrote a book about it. He talks about those stories. My mom went a much harder life. Her father died at 9 after the World War II. There was a civil war in Greece, communists versus nationalists. Father died of injury, so she didn't have a father at 9 years old, which is a big deal in the old country when you need a dowry and how to
very
get
hard.
married off, and Greece is incredibly poor. So they came here. That's their story. They came here. When you think about this, and I think from all our, if you talk to her father, I'm sure your parents, those stories they tell, like it's like me going to get a cup of coffee. It's not a big deal to them.
Right,
It's not a big
right.
deal at all. It's just life, right?
But it is
Yeah.
such a big deal.
It's such a
so
big deal,
powerful,
right?
and I
So
do
that-
think that's probably
Yeah.
where a lot of our drive comes and why
Sure.
we're successful, because
Yeah,
you know,
right. Because
we-
what I think is a big deal, like if I, think of the things that I thought are a big deal during my personal life when you're single and this slight or something like that, but they're just.
you were single a long time.
Yeah, I was single a long time. But they tell these stories, not like, can you believe this? My mom will laugh at my dad because he wrote a book about the Germans and he talks about people dying, getting shot. She goes, he thinks he had it hard compared to her life, right? But they don't brag about it, which I'm sure your parents don't. Like your story's
No.
amazing. Both people, you're lost for 7 years is a big deal. And same thing, you lost a brother in North Korea. That's a closed off society. So I think we take that away, like, okay, you can give us perspective, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, definitely. That the work ethic and really, hopefully, trying to make our parents proud of,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
of all the things that they had to sacrifice to give us
bring
the
us
life
here,
that
right.
we have.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we all, like, if we're going through struggles or if there's something going on, and we always collectively say, you know what, it can always be worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because it's all relative, right? So it can always be worse. So I'm a very much a glass half full kind of guy versus glass half empty. So I always try to think the positives of things, and
Right.
that, yes, the situation stinks, but we can get through it. Like, if my grandma, my parents, my relatives, and
Right.
people that we love had gone, and same with yours, had gone through so much, we can figure this
Yeah,
out.
okay,
right?
based on that,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And it makes you work harder.
Right.
So let's delve into like working together, right? Like I said, this is the first
Do you
time.
guys like working to each other? Working
I love
with each
it.
other now?
I love working together.
Because you guys were separate for a while.
So a little background on us. I met Dean when he was at Pearl Mortgage on Ashland, and then you
2000.
worked there. That was you worked there for a while, and then
I started in the industry like that, and then as you mentioned how we met, but she was starting up a company, and at the time it was a different type. I had no business. I just thought it'd be best to.
we had a big fight.
Did we have a big fight about
Yeah,
that?
because you flipped my folder inside out when I was telling you about my products, and I was very angry at you. It started off like I was mad at you.
All right. Okay. So that's why.
And then you just like were done, and you remember folders? You used them for a different person.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's when you worked at a bank, right?
Yeah.
Using product. But
Yeah, we had folders too,
Yeah.
like the legal size, all the title companies.
Yeah, here's your folder. I got flipped inside. I did not like that. It bothered
But
me.
it's worked out well though, because
But your story. So you worked there, and then you went to another company.
Does Amy
for the
cut you
last
off
10
at all,
years.
or-
Yeah.
all the time.
just
No,
wonder. Yeah,
Right. So we've been
when you
together
get cut off,
working
I
for
get
about
ignored entirely.
So I get
about a year and a half. It's
So,
been
yeah,
right.
it could be like we're out, like, why would anyone talk to me? Because Nina, I can get the first few words out, she'll just finish it, and she won't realize it until an hour later. Like, you're not talking. Like, I've been trying to. So, but it was a parallel growth, which made sense at the time, because I built up a pretty good book of business right away, because I had to. I was broke, and I had to start, and I just worked really, really hard. And A&N at the time started doing challenging loans, so back then in the industry, you didn't have help with that. You were on your own. A lot of the business
This
I couldn't
was in
handle.
02.
Yeah, 02, 03 and all that. So I just started referring a lot of business this way. So it kind of helped her get into the mainstream business too.
I've always been good at putting together loans that made common sense, but didn't always fit the guidelines, right? So that's been my whole career. By working together, not at the same company, it was a very complementary business style because we could help any family together, right?
We have
Because
vastly different
at the time-
personalities though too.
You
I mean,
think?
yeah, goodness. Well, I mean,
We don't even share the same music taste.
no, yeah, so it's,
But then the last year and a half for me have been
I'll get
very
back to that
powerful.
point, let her
Yeah,
go,
hold
yeah.
on. They've been very powerful because you're bringing in a different perspective that I have never had because I've owned this company since I was 27. And the structures in place were wonderful and they've worked, but they can only work for so long,
Yes.
right? So you need to bring in outside help, and I'm very self-aware of that.
And, but someone you can trust too.
right, yeah,
Right, right,
Which
yeah.
is
that helps a lot.
the next level of, yeah.
So, yeah, the different personalities, I would always take, Nina becomes best friends with her clients, talks to them for, and I'll get to the point sometimes, but it's just how I work. I can feel them up, but if I'm on the, I remember I used to brag when I was, I would time how long I can get a client and get all the information, like, yes, 6 minutes, 43 seconds. And
I feel like 4 hours and
Yes,
31 minutes.
and so part of the time is when she's talking to a
Terrible.
client, I have to leave the room. I'm like, what? I can just land the plane. Just
Yeah.
land the plane, I'll say. But that's just
Howard's
me.
like that with his
Yeah,
clients.
I'm not
this
as
is the
well.
opposite where, and we often talk about this, how you and Amy are very similar,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Nina and I are very similar.
Right.
Like, I'll be on a client call for like an hour. Amy's like, I heard the whole call, and that could have been done in 8 minutes.
There you go. See, okay, so you can get
I
there.
go, but alas, what's going to happen is they want to go have a drink with me. So she had a problem with, we would kind of operate a little bit different, but get to the same result. But then what would happen was, a lot of our clients would want to go out with me. So I would take them out all the time, like it's a closing gift, or I take them to baseball
Right.
games because I'm very passionate about sports and stuff. And she goes, this isn't fair.
Yeah, they would be like, "Oh my gosh, you guys did such an
Good
amazing
job.
job.
Why don't we hang out with Howard?"
We loved working with you. We're gonna write a review. Like, can you let me know when Howard's free to hang out?" That's what they would say to me.
And they wouldn't invite her.
That's like so rude.
Yeah.
Why would you
I don't
not
think-
say both of us?
I don't think anyone's lined up to hang out with me, so I think the same thing here. but yeah.
And Nina's very social like I am, so
Yeah.
it's, but it's interesting though, because there has to be balance.
Right.
Right? Because you're working with your spouse. For me personally, I'll never win because, and I don't expect to win with her. Largely because I care about my kids. Like, it's not worth arguing over everything, right? So I just, over time, I knew when to kind of back off and it's not worth it. But the moments where I know I'm right and I catch a red-handed wrong, I have proof.
I said sorry 3 times this morning
Yeah.
for things.
Really?
Yes.
You've said sorry 3 times in your whole life.
You know what the funny thing is? She may have, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Because it probably wasn't even that important.
I mean, it was like, little stuff. Yeah.
Like,
Sorry doesn't work in our household ever. 'Cause
Just wanna
if I
understand.
say I'm sorry, it's I don't want a sorry. A sorry does not make sense to me. I want you to understand why, so that you can grow, or we can grow as a couple.
No,
You can
we,
teach the
it's not
kids.
me, I'm not a coach
Oh,
or
I don't.
anything.
I don't
Yeah,
think you're a
yeah,
coach.
yeah.
I would not be married to you if
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
think that. Yeah, but yeah, and I think that's the hardest part. But I've just learned that when we've started working together in the last year and a half.
Right.
That's my perspective has changed on everything, and I feel like I've grown
That's amazing.
so much lately.
Because you guys have been married for so long, and you have
But we
3
talked,
kids.
But
and
our
then
world was
2 at
small.
all.
Our
Yeah.
world felt so small.
we
It
all,
felt like
because everyone knows the same people. We
Yeah.
talked more about work back then when I wasn't there at home than we do now. Now we don't
Right.
talk work at all. And, you know, that's all. I've
it's
got-
so great.
Yeah, that was because we were always at different places. But I think my business evolved because I did a lot of work for like high-end executives, attorneys and all that, and they didn't want to be on the phone. I mean, it worked out to the point. If you're doing the challenging loans, they need your time type of
Yeah.
thing.
I agree with that.
But I kind of agree. You could have done that in 8 minutes and he's on the phone.
Yeah.
But when I'm cleaning up, like if you're sending a hard loan to me or
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense, you have to make sure that client is engaged with you,
Right.
because they're not going to follow the directions you're going, and then you've just wasted all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't want that. You have to get them to understand that you know how to help them to get them to the finish line. But if they don't understand it, not every client needs to be a homeowner. Not every client understands. There are renters in the world, and that is okay. You know, and that's I think why Howard and I take a little bit longer.
All right.
Well, I think that, you know, this job is, you know, it's a service, and everybody has different personalities. So the client, like, the nice thing is that if we could just have a better understanding of if that client would be a better fit with one or the other.
Right.
So,
And that's what I've come
nice
to too now, right? Because as I've gotten older and I do a lot more other stuff, I'm thinking, this person needs to work with my wife because she'll like talking to this person type of, yeah.
And that's important,
that's
though.
really
It's important to
just
match up
yeah.
the personalities
Right.
with the people, right? In
Yeah.
life
Because the line
and
of
in
work that
children,
we're in is very
everything.
personal, and
Yeah.
it has a great impact on their lives, right?
And it matters.
So, yeah.
Some of the favorite calls that I've had recently, because we've been open since '02, is the families that I helped in the first, you know, '02 to '05.
Yes.
They're retiring now, and then they're
Aw.
sending us their children,
Yes.
but they're not going to need a mortgage anymore. And it's just like, you've helped this family for that long. I mean, it's very rewarding. It feels
course.
really, really good.
Absolutely.
Well, so we're going down to U of I next week, actually, to go to the U of I MSU game, and I had started a sorority chapter at U of I, and so yeah, so I'm literally like number 1 in the line of numbers, and you know, I'm like, these eventually will be like future clients. It's kind
Yeah,
of crazy.
right. Oh, it's
Right.
crazy. So
Yes.
I founded the UIC Women's Rugby team.
Yes, and
not
they're-
to try
and
to
you have
one
a lot
up
of
you.
clients
But
there.
yeah,
No, and
now
we
are-
talked about it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and you're like, okay, well, let's help them rent, and now they're all like getting jobs. And
Yes.
it's amazing to see
It
that,
is.
right? And it's very, you know, I'm turning 50 this year, which is a huge milestone, and I'm very proud of that, right? So it's very rewarding what we do.
Yes, it is very rewarding. Like keeping those clients throughout the decades, but also like whole new chapters of clients is really
Right,
cool too.
right.
So
So let's get back to like the family and stuff. I was thinking of something where, you know, we're all from immigrant families. And I know the Greek family, you know, being immigrants, everything has to be Greek. Nina converted to Greek Orthodoxy by choice, of course. But I've noticed that we have 3 kids, and my kids, I tell my kids if they ask, what are we? I say, you're 100% Greek, which they're not. And then Nina rolls her eyes. I do that when her mother's around sometimes too. I kind of do it on purpose. I go, you're 100% Greek. Any issue, like, is it Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean in your household? Or
I
how does
like
that
being
work?
Greek, by the way.
Yeah, she likes it now.
I love it.
But for a while there, I just
I didn't ever
my kids will
resist
ask,
it.
and
I
I just
mean,
cut
I
off.
grew up
You're
around it,
We
yeah.
100%.
absolutely had this issue.
Oh, you
and
do?
And
Yes.
it revolves
'Cause you're
around our
the-
son,
yeah.
who's
Makes
So-
Wait, Mason, what did he say to you
Oh,
at one
Mason's
time?
great.
yeah,
Okay.
so he just came out home from he just came home from school, and he must have had a conversation at school about what his ethnicity was. Okay?
Okay.
So, and he comes home, he gets a snack, his mouth is full of food, and he's so like, you know, he's like 8 years old, so he's like this cute little boy. And he's like, so Mom, you know, like what kind of knees are you? And I said, what are you, what does that mean? Like my knees, like my legs, like my knees? It's like, no. It's like, are you Chinese? Are you Vietnamese? Like, I know you're not Korean, but
So
what?
he's asking you because he's not that, but you are. Right?
Yeah, so I was like, what
Yes,
are
he
you?
identified himself as 100%
And I
Korean.
said, first off, whatever 100% I am, you are 50%
Yeah,
of.
right.
Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And he said, no. I said,
Where did that
He's a
come
very bright boy.
Very
he just
bright
refuses
boy.
to identify.
So where does that come from? Howard then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
He says it all the time.
Yeah, so it's Korea.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, so the same
and I
thing
took him
then.
to Korea a couple times, and he's like, "This is the best."
I would
place in
like to
the
go to Korea.
I know,
With
it's
you
the best,
guys.
it is.
But-
You know, when I
tallest
just
person
always
there.
assumed Howard was like this, like, just really thought that, just very prideful Korean man about Korea. And I'm like, this is not the best country. I mean, every country is awesome, and, you know, everybody's proud of where they're from.
Just to downplay him, just to
Yeah,
be mean.
well, that's
Just make
like,
sure you got him in
really,
news.
but then so I go and visit, and then when I leave, I did admit, yeah, it was a pretty awesome country.
There you go. So,
Again, I was
so,
right.
so Mason's
yeah.
okay identifying as strictly Korean then, right?
Well, he now knows that he is half Chinese,
But
Chinese
Anise,
Vietnamese,
the
but
Anise thing, yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
what kind of knees are you, Mom? And it was just so adorable.
I remember you guys telling that story, but I didn't hear the first part. And then I was like, what are they talking about? And you were like, Vietnamese. But it's just so funny.
He's Chinese, that is funny.
Yeah.
So during COVID then, how everything changed when I get to that, I took up cooking and all that. So I don't know how your household is, but I know what Nina does on a regular basis. She'll complain there's not enough food in the house. And I come to
Awful.
realize
I'm so hungry right
what
now.
she complains about is there's not enough restaurant
Yeah,
ready
I need
food.
the meal in front of me, Dean.
So she'll never make anything.
Nothing.
She'll,
I tried last night.
She'll try in a crock pot, she'll throw it in there and put it all day, but I mean, I liked it, just keeps you busy. What's, you know, that's the.
So Amy used to be an amazing cook.
Used to
And-
be.
Used to be.
Yeah.
Now she's god awful.
Yeah, I'm really
and,
bad.
she's really bad, and
Yeah.
she takes a lot of shortcuts, and like, people used to come over to our condo when we lived in the city,
Right.
all the time just to eat her food. People will not come near our
Why
house.
the shortcuts? Why the shortcuts then?
And I think this,
Well,
this
like,
goes
you
like to
know,
AI and
like,
stuff like that.
lack
It
of
all start. No,
time.
no, stop there. Don't lie. It's like if you look at the way this world is going with AI and
Yeah.
like all this stuff, right? It all started with cooking, in my mind.
I see.
That damn Instapot, the pressure cooker, that Instapot.
Yeah, but
where
you
just
still have
throw
to
everything
prepare-
in, you just set a
yeah.
timer and you cook
That's
it.
the slow cooker that she does, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's different.
That started the downfall of everything.
I'm 4 hours to 8 hours because I
Because she
burn
used to
everything.
put all this love and care and just like
I
all
want to
into
taste
it.
it.
Now
Right.
it's just like, you know, and then she thinks she wants to like make something healthy for their kids.
And what
It's
happens?
awful.
Yeah, it's inedible.
So
It's
you've
it's
changed
edible.
your whole person. Wait, can we talk about this a little bit? Wait, so you've changed your whole personality. You used to be a good cook.
Yes.
You're admitting to this.
Yeah,
And you won't go back?
And you won't go back. What happened? What changed in you?
I spoiled her.
He
I got
is a
so
good cook,
tired
but-
of
yeah.
eating that stuff in our house, and our kids like she'd make this meal, no one would eat it,
Yeah.
right? Like no one would, and you couldn't fix it.
I mean, I
So
think
then-
it's just time.
so
like,
then
you know,
it is
it's
time.
busy.
No.
Like,
Because what was it,
No.
on
yes,
Friday?
it is. For
Nina-
me, I'm answering the question. For me, it is time. You
You know,
know?
there should be a disclaimer that you have to be truthful. Okay, you're lying. But I started cooking a lot,
Okay,
Yeah.
same
and
thing.
I
Cook
cook a lot of
more.
Korean food.
Okay.
Which she loves.
All right. Oh, so you're
It
spoiled.
started once a week
No,
to
I'm
twice
not
a week to 3
spoiled.
times a week. Are you not spoiled?
Yeah, I'm not spoiled per se, but yeah, I mean, he does now cook more.
Got it.
For
She,
sure.
she admits it though.
But I liked
She
it. Like
does
the other day,
Yeah.
was it Friday or Monday? There's leftover Taco Bell at 9 in the morning. Nina's eating Taco Bell.
I
go,
didn't
Are you
eat
serious?
the Taco Bell I wanted
So I
to eat.
I
The
couldn't-
Taco
I
Bell
couldn't
I
do it, so I
love.
started making
Indians
eggs.
love Taco Bell.
How long does
Yeah,
it take?
I
I'm
love
Indian.
Taco Bell.
Indians love
How long does
Taco
it take to
Bell.
make scrambled eggs? 4 minutes? So
Yeah,
I made
4
her
minutes.
eggs,
I
which
don't
is
wanna
the
make
spoiled part,
'em.
right?
Yes.
But Taco Bell, let's get some protein rather than Taco Bell.
Taco
for
Bell's
breakfast,
really
so-
good for you.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So there we go. All right, so that was a good delve into working with your
Can we
spouse.
talk a little bit about how when we go out, because we have date night every once in a while?
Yes.
And we go on 2 dates.
Oh, yeah.
It's
It's
hilarious.
my favorite thing about going out with you guys is I know I'm going to get 2 dinners.
Well, that's hard. The first time we lived in the city, we had to
It's
go.
the best.
to
I was like,
a
can I
Vietnamese
meet your
We've
work
been
wife?
doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
For like over a decade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a Vietnamese restaurant in the city.
Yes.
Because I wanted it, because I was telling you where my friends, this Vietnamese spot, you go, oh, that's where everyone goes, and you had a better spot, which is always the case, right? So we ate it, and then they were talking about Korean food, and then from
It was
there,
on Argyle.
we went on Lincoln Avenue to go to the Korean
Korean
restaurant.
bar to grab a drink,
Yeah.
Right.
but the menu was amazing.
Yeah.
It was unreal.
So we ate all that, and
Yeah.
then that started the.
And I love going out with you guys because I know, like, here's this, and then you eat a little bit, and then you get to go to a whole nother
Yeah,
date.
I wanna
It's
go-
unreal. Like
My next request
that's
is the fried
unbelievable
chicken.
for a
I
whole
wanna go straight
decade.
fried chicken
So you
next time.
eat your meal, and then you get to go for fried chicken after.
Yeah.
And now Howard's gotten the habit of making sure my children, I guess they're our children, have fried chicken when they get home,
order
and
to go.
it's unreal. So I love that, and I love experiencing all these new things with you guys, and I'm very grateful for having you guys in our lives. So
Oh, well,
Thank
we
you,
feel the
Lisa.
same. I mean, it's an amazing working relationship, friendship over the years. So it's
I
been
think a lot of
fun.
it too is that, like more on the serious note, we also understand each other more too, right?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we're in the same line of work. Like you guys are in lending, we're on the sales side with real estate, but understanding working with your spouse, right?
Right.
And how that relates to our personal lives as well, and then just that dynamic of our friendship as well, right?
that's
'Cause
very deep.
It's again, Nina and I are very similar.
Right.
And Dean and Amy are very similar, and some stuff that we can't even openly discuss. Right? Like,
I never wash my hair once a week.
So gross.
like they will literally
It's
try
so
to one
weird.
up each other to how long they haven't shampooed their hair.
But I think it lays better when you do it.
It's just so gross.
And then they scratch their head like this.
So gross.
And like I'm absolutely utterly disgusted.
So-
Nina can't even get disgusted anymore because like she
I
sees
can't
it
handle
all the
it.
time.
Yeah.
So funny.
Dean, I love you, but
I washed it
expect more
yesterday.
from
I did
you.
it yesterday. I did it yesterday. But it's funny that you brought that up. I think it lays better, so let it
I
go.
just take 2 showers a day. So.
But, yeah, but it's hilarious that we're eating at dinner, and then literally as the bill comes, we're like, okay, so are we ready to go to the next place now?
Yeah, that's
After
great.
we just had a whole meal.
How far is it? How much time do we have? And then we go. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the hair washing
Well, I
is
wanted
very...
to thank you for working with me and for
So
having
was
me
that so
on
hard
your
talking?
show.
This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. So it was a little, you were nervous, right?
I'm very nervous because I don't know. It's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to put yourself out there. I don't want to make mistakes in my life. I don't want to hurt anybody. But
this
I
is just
also.
a small chat podcast.
But
easy.
it's
not a
not.
big
It's
deal,
deep.
Nina.
Everything's
It's
deep
not a
with
big
you,
deal,
man.
This is the
I
Valentine's
know
Day
you.
disclaimer
Yeah,
right here.
yeah.
So
But I'm
that's
very
it.
grateful for you, and I'm very glad
There we go.
that we work together. And I know you can't take a compliment either.
No,
So.
okay. So thank you to Howard and Amy
Thank you for
for
having
joining us
us.
today
It's so
on
fun.
Real Estate Happy Hour, podcast number 2. Thanks, everyone. There we go.
You got to look there.
Where do I have to look? See, she's
There.
still telling me what to do. There we go. Okay.
That was deep. That was really deep in the beginning. I was like ready to cry.